Hi, this is Spencer, your Tampa Bay wallpaper installer, coming to you from St. Pete, Florida. And we have another fine wallpaper installation. Fine meaning very fine quality coal and sun wallpaper. And these are the makers of the hand-printed wallpaper that I've been installing on this particular project. This wallpaper has to be one of the finest quality wallpapers I've ever installed. This particular coal and sun paper. Okay, the reason I say it is because I have had to manipulate this paper quite a bit. I'm starting up above here because that is where the customer wanted the mismatch. You know that when you start wallpaper in a room, where you start and where you end it, the wallpaper, unless you have a miracle, will not match up. And so you try to hide it over the smallest run, the smallest vertical run that you have, in order that you don't see it. For example, you might want to, I did an arch recently, and there was about 2 inches of paper that was the perfect place to have your mismatch, where you can't see it. Okay. This paper, I would say, is almost like a skin. It's like the skin of an animal. That's the impression that I'm getting as I install it. It's beautiful stuff, absolutely beautiful. Look at the beauty of this paper as you go up. Look at that beauty. Now maybe you can't see what I'm talking about. It's the luster, it's an eggshell finish wall covering. None of the color marred as I manipulated the paper, not one bit of it. Now, as a professional paper hanger, you have to learn to manipulate the paper as least as possible. Because when you're installing it, your wallpaper is most vulnerable to discoloring. Why? Well, you have pigment in the wallpaper. 2, your wallpaper is wet. Not only wet, it's almost saturated because you're wiping it down, you have glue underneath it. 3, because you're causing friction with the smoother. And this is the item I'm using. None of the color was compromised in the least bit on this particular installation. The reason I started this video is to talk about, should you dilute your wallpaper glue? I'm going to show you something. I don't know if you can see these little wrinkles. They're almost like a human hair. You see this? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Before I went on video, I was struggling with this paper, with this sheet, because I'm coming off of my corner, and whenever you're coming off of a corner, you're struggling with a sheet of paper that really is not 100% plumb. What do I mean by that? It's not perfectly straight up and down. Oh, the level will say that it's straight. Sure it will. But in reality, if you were to take a microscopic measurement of the paper coming off of a corner, you're out by a 64th of an inch in the middle, you're in by an 1/8, 3/4 down, but from top to bottom, it shows plumb. And the result of that is that you have wrinkles from manipulating the wallpaper into place. After all, a wrinkle is because of the displacement of material unevenly. And so you're necessarily going to have a wrinkle, and that's what a wrinkle is, right? When your pants are on, you look down, there's a wrinkle there because the clothing is, it's trying to be straight, right? And the wrinkle is because the leg is bent and it has to work around that, and that's what a wrinkle is from. Well, your job is to get those wrinkles out. So, and the paper determines whether or not you can, or whether you should, or whether you can dilute the glue. And I'll tell you something. with some installations, if you don't dilute the glue, you're going to have a terrible installation. With this particular paper, if I did not dilute the glue, which I did, the glue would set up too quickly, the paper would not slide on the substrate, and I would have a mess on my hands. All because you might think, well, diluting the glue means you're cheating. Not at all. You don't need all the time 100% glue strength on the paper. The paper determines what kind of strength of glue you need. If the paper is lightweight and you have heavy-duty glue, you have to realize you can compromise the viscosity of the glue without compromising the integrity of the installation, either your own professional integrity or the aesthetic integrity of the paper. Now, the reason why you want to water down the glue is because if your glue is too thick, it's going to make track marks under your paper. And so when I do this, I'm going to have such a hard time getting that thick glue 21.5 inches out of this other side of this paper. You better water down your glue if you want a nice smooth installation. Secondly, to get the wrinkles out that I was dealing with, and there were 100 of them, I had to keep pulling the sheet of paper up and realigning it on the right. And if my glue were not watered down, I would start ripping the paper because it would be stuck to the wall. You want a lot of H2O in the mixture. Why? Because that's going to keep it from drying up. And that's the bottom line. Secondly, it keeps the glue from being too thick. This particular sheet absolutely is perfect. Believe me, this is 2 sheets of paper. There's one here, and this is joined to this one. See, we have the one up there. Maybe I didn't tell you that. And the seam is right here. This is the seam right here. And this particular job is going to be gorgeous. And the color of the paper is beautiful. When I first started to install it, I said, I think we should paint the wall green. But as the paper started giving way, because I wet the glue down, I was able to join the seams perfectly. And the seams come into place almost like the hide of an animal. When it's wet, it doesn't give way to tearing. There's something in the paper, in the fibers, that keep that paper together. And almost like the skin of an animal, it just works it in there. It works it in the little nuances of the not so plumb line that we have. Remember, the level says that it's plumb. But in reality, if you looked under a microscope, you'd see little zigzags. Because it's paper and it's wet. It looks straight, but because of that, there's wrinkles, and because of the wrinkles, you gotta get them out. And because the glue is so thick, if you don't wet it down, it's very hard to get them out. And therefore, yes, you should wet down your glue in some instances. Not all. If you're installing a fabric back vinyl, commercial wall covering, you need all the glue you can get. And in most of those cases, you're going to have to use heavy-duty glue, and sometimes the manufacturer calls for clay-based glue, and that stuff dries up really quickly. Generally speaking, if you have a 20-ounce wallpaper, you have to use clay. So that's it. This is Spencer, your Tampa Bay wallpaper installer, coming to you from St. Pete. Maybe one day if you come and visit and you come to the restaurant on Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard, you'll see this installation. Okay, I don't know if the owner wants me to mention her restaurant, but maybe she does. If you want to know where it is, put a little comment and I'll let you know with her permission. Okay, see you on the next one. Do me a favor. I make these videos for your edification. Click on like and also subscribe to my channel. Perhaps at this point, most of you who watch this have already gone off of the video. But if you're still here, click on subscribe to my channel. That helps me develop a monetization of my videos, which is important to me in order to keep making them. Okay, thank you, and I hope to see you on the next one.